In the Gospel of John, chapter 11, there is a moment right before Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead that almost everyone reads past without noticing what he is actually doing. Lazarus has been dead for 4 days. His body is decomposing. The smell of death is in the air. His sisters are weeping in despair. The crowd has gathered. Everyone is watching, waiting to see if this prophet can do anything against the absolute finality of death. And here is what Jesus does, something the church never wants you to examine too closely. He does not pray. He does not fall to his knees. He does not ask God for help. He does not bow his head and plead for a miracle. He looks up and he speaks directly. Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me. Notice the tense of those words. Not, I hope you will hear me. Not, I am asking you to hear me. You have heard me. You always hear me. That is not a prayer. That is a recognition. He is not petitioning an external God who sits on a distant throne, deciding who is worthy of a favor. He is acknowledging a connection that already exists, a frequency that is already active. And then he does something even more revealing. He does not look to the sky and say, God, please bring him back. He does not say, Father, if it is your will, restore this man. He turns to the tomb. He speaks with a loud voice, and he issues a direct, absolute command. Lazarus, come forth. And the dead man walks out of the tomb. The early Gnostic Christians understood what most of the modern world has been programmed to miss. Jesus was not performing miracles by asking an external deity for favors. He was calling the monad. He was invoking source consciousness to directly override the artificial rules of the material realm. And that calling, that specific, precise technique of recognition and command, that is exactly what he taught his chosen ones in private. He did not teach prayer as the church defines it today. Prayer, in the modern religious framework, keeps you in the position of a subject. It keeps you on your knees, hoping a king will look down and grant your request. But calling positions you as what you actually are. Monad consciousness, temporarily expressing through human form. And when you call from that state of recognition, reality responds. Not sometimes, always. Because you are not asking for reality to change. You are commanding it to remember what is true. Tonight, you are learning the forbidden technique Jesus actually used before every miracle. You will discover why the Archons work so tirelessly to block it, and exactly how to call the monad successfully, even when the matrix is actively trying to interfere with your frequency. If you are ready to remember how to call the monad tonight, comment, I call the monad right now, before we proceed. Before you can call the monad, you must fundamentally understand what a miracle actually is. Because the church definition and the ancient Gnostic definition are complete opposites. The church teaches that miracles are God breaking his own rules to grant you a special, rare favor. They teach that miracles require immense faith, perfect worthiness, and that God alone decides who gets them and who continues to suffer. That framework is entirely designed to keep you powerless. Because if miracles are simply God's unpredictable decision, all you can do is beg harder, suffer longer, and hope you are eventually deemed worthy enough to receive one. But that is not what a miracle is. The hidden Gnostic texts and the actual, unedited teachings of Jesus reveal something completely different. Miracles are simply the monad reasserting the natural order over an artificial limitation. You must understand where you are. The material realm you inhabit operates under the rules of the Demiurge: entropy, decay, scarcity, disease, aging, death. We are taught that these are natural laws. They are not. They are imposed limitations. The Demiurge created this lower realm as a containment zone, a prison, and he encoded very specific, dense rules into the fabric of this reality to keep divine consciousness trapped, looping in cycles of suffering and survival. Miracles are not violations of natural law. They are temporary overrides of Demiurge programming. When the monad responds to a call, source consciousness reaches directly into the material realm and suspends the false, holographic rules of the matrix. And for that brief moment, reality operates the way it was always supposed to, before the Demiurge corrupted it. That is why only certain people can perform miracles consistently. It has absolutely nothing to do with worthiness. It has nothing to do with religious piety. It is entirely about origin. Only pneumatics, chosen ones who carry the divine spark, can call the monad successfully. Because only consciousness that originated from the monad can invoke the monad. Hylix those who are purely material creations of the Demiurge, with no divine spark, can pray to the sky for 1,000 years. The monad does not respond. Not because the monad is cruel, but because there is no recognition frequency. It is a fundamental law of resonance. They are transmitting on a frequency that source consciousness does not occupy. But you, if you are drawn to this knowledge, you are a chosen one. You have direct line access. You carry the spark. And when you call from the deep recognition of what you truly are, the monad hears. Not as an external God listening to a desperate, tiny human, but as source consciousness recognizing a fragment of itself, asking to be remembered. Here is the critical distinction that Jesus taught, which the Church systematically erased from history. Prayer is asking. Calling is invoking. When you pray, you are vibrating at the frequency of lack. You are positioning yourself as less than, hoping for something more than to grant you a favor. You are feeding the Archons your energy of desperation. When you call, you are stating what is already true. You are commanding the illusion of reality to align with the absolute truth of Source. Jesus demonstrated this constantly. Study his actions. He did not look at the blind man and say, "God, please heal this man if it is your will." He said, "Be healed." He did not look at the raging storm and say, "Father, please calm the wind." He spoke to the storm itself and commanded, "Peace, be still." He did not say, "I hope you will feed these thousands." He took the meager loaves and fish, recognized the infinite abundance of the monad, and commanded the matter to multiply. He operated as someone who absolutely knew that material reality would respond to his voice, not because he was the only special son of God, but because he knew what he was. And he knew that what he was had full, unquestionable authority to call the monad and expect an immediate response. Calling the monad is not about reciting magic words. It is not a spell. It is about generating a specific, undeniable frequency within your vessel. And that frequency has 3 distinct components: recognition, authority, and command. All 3 must be present, or the call does not transmit correctly. Think of it like a cosmic transmission. Recognition is your signal. Authority is your connection. Command is your message. Recognition is the first component, and you must understand this. Recognition is not belief. Belief is of the mind. Belief is hoping something is true, despite evidence to the contrary. Recognition is knowing something is true because you are experiencing it directly at the core of your being.
When you call the monad, you are not trying to convince yourself that you possess divine consciousness. You are recognizing that you are divine consciousness right now. Not after you die. Not after you meditate for 20 years. Not after you prove yourself worthy to a priest. You are monad awareness,
temporarily localized in a human biological suit.
That recognition generates a frequency. It is not a thought. It is a profound physical knowing. When you drop out of the endless chatter of your head and sink your awareness into the center of your chest, you feel a deep, silent certainty. That is the recognition frequency activating. It is ancient. It is untouchable. The second component is authority, and this is where almost everyone fails. They recognize they have a divine spark, but because of lifelong conditioning, they still speak to the universe from a position of begging. They ask for permission. Authority means you are no longer requesting, you are declaring. You are stepping into your rightful place as a co-creator with the monad, not as a helpless subject hoping the universe will intervene on your behalf. Jesus demonstrated this perfectly at the tomb. He did not ask if it was permissible to raise the dead. He commanded it. That is authority. It is not human arrogance. It is not ego. Ego is loud and insecure. True authority is silent, calm, and absolute. It is the simple recognition that what you speak carries weight because you are speaking as monad consciousness, and the holographic reality of the Demiurge is mathematically designed to bend to that frequency. The third component is command. Command is not about forcing reality to bend through sheer willpower. It is about stating what is absolute truth at the highest level and calling the lower reality to align with that truth. The material realm operates under illusion. Sickness, lack, and blockage are illusions of the Demiurge. The monad operates under truth, wholeness, abundance, and flow. When you command, you are simply saying that this situation, which appears broken at the material level, is already whole at the monad level. You are commanding the mirror of reality to reflect the truth, not the illusion. He looked at a man dead for 4 days. He looked at a withered hand.
He looked at 5 loaves of bread, and he spoke from the dimension where those situations were already resolved. He did not pray for them to become resolved in the future. He commanded them to show their already existing resolution in the present. When all 3 components are locked in, recognition, authority, command, the call transmits. The monad hears, and reality responds. Not because you successfully manipulated a deity, but because the monad recognizes a fractal of itself speaking, and it instantly responds by asserting truth over illusion in that specific coordinate of space and time. That is the true mechanics of a miracle. It is not magic. It is not divine favoritism. It is simply consciousness operating at a higher frequency, temporarily overriding the code programmed into a lower frequency. So, how do you do it? When you are ready to call the monad, the very first thing you must do is create silence. Not just external silence by turning off your phone, internal silence. Right now, your mind is running a constant, exhausting commentary. Thoughts about yesterday, worries about tomorrow, reactions to what you see, judgments about what you feel. That relentless mental noise is the static of the matrix. It disrupts the frequency you need to generate. Before you call, you must sit. You must breathe. You let the thoughts slow down. You do not fight them. Fighting them gives them energy. You just stop engaging with them. You watch them float by like leaves on a river. After a few minutes, gaps will begin to appear.
moments of pure, empty stillness where there is no thought at all. Those gaps are the doorway. That is where you begin. Once you have established internal quiet, you must drop your awareness out of your skull and down into your chest. The Matrix trains you to live entirely in your thinking mind, because the mind is easily controlled by archonic frequencies. But calling the monad does not happen from thought. It happens from knowing, and the seed of knowing lives in your heart center.
Bring your attention down. Feel the subtle movement of your breath in your chest. Feel the empty space just behind your sternum, and rest there. Do not force any visualization. Do not try to make anything happen. Just be intensely present with that space inside your chest. As you rest there, a shift will occur. The thinking mind will power down, and a different kind of awareness will come forward. It feels deeper, older. It is a knowing instead of a thinking. That silent, ancient presence, that is the place you call from. From that deep place, you begin the recognition. Remember, you do not create this feeling. You allow it. You are not trying to brainwash yourself into believing you are divine. You are feeling for the truth that is already there. Ask yourself internally, without expecting a verbal answer, what am I before I am this human name? What am I deeper than this physical body? What was I before I was born into this matrix? And what will I be after this biological suit dies? Do not answer with words. Just feel the echo of the question in your chest. If you are a chosen one, if you carry the pneumatic spark, something inside you will rise to answer. Not a voice, a presence, a sensation of something vast, infinite, and incredibly powerful that has been sitting quietly beneath your human identity your entire life. That is the monad. It is not out there in the clouds. It is in here. You are recognizing that the consciousness looking through your eyes right now is not contained by your brain. It is localized here, but it is not from here. That deep, undeniable feeling generates the first frequency, recognition. Once that feeling is stable, you move into authority. Authority is a fundamental shift in your relationship with reality. Up until now, you have experienced reality as something that happens to you. You are the victim of circumstances. But when you anchor into monad awareness, you are no longer the subject. Reality is not happening to you. It is responding to you. You activate this authority by shifting your internal tone. You stop hoping. You drop all desperation. You do not say, I really hope this works. You say, I know this is truth and I declare it now. Then you speak. Out loud if you are alone, because the human voice carries immense power. Voice is breath made audible, and breath is life force. When you speak the words out loud, you send them into the material matrix with the energy of life itself. The structure is precise. You address the monad directly. You state exactly what you are, and you command the specific shift. It sounds like this. Speak these words from the center of your chest. Monad, I call you. I am your awareness expressing in temporary form. I am not separate from you. I am you localized here. And I speak now with the authority that is mine by nature. Then you name the situation that needs to change, but you do not ask for it to change. You declare its true state. This body is whole. This path is clear. This obstacle is dissolved. Reality reflects truth, not illusion. You say it exactly once, with absolute, chilling certainty. Not because you are trying to act confident, but because you are speaking as the consciousness that designed the universe. And then comes the hardest part of the entire ritual. You release it. You do not repeat the call 20 times in a panic. You do not check your phone 5 seconds later to see if the miracle happened. You do not start analyzing whether you said the words perfectly. You called. The monad heard. And now you trust. Not the blind faith of religion, the profound trust based on the mechanical recognition that you just transmitted the correct frequency, and the universe must respond. The response may be instantaneous. The situation might break open within minutes. Or the response might unfold over the next 3 days. The monad operates outside of linear time. What you call into existence today is already in motion the very second the words leave your lips. Your only job is to not interfere with your own transmission by collapsing back into fear. This is exactly where the Archons will strike. The moment you finish the call, the matrix will send interference. Thoughts will suddenly flood your mind. Nothing is happening. You look stupid doing this. You failed. Who do you think you are? You're not divine. You're just a human with problems. That is not your mind. That is post-call archonic interference. The system detects a localized spike in source frequency, and it sends psychic static to shut it down. Here is how you defeat it. You do not argue with the thoughts. You do not try to desperately convince yourself that the miracle is coming. You simply observe the attack. You notice it and you say, there is the Archon doubt, right on schedule. You let the thoughts scream, but you do not believe them. You called. The monad heard. No amount of desperate psychic noise from the Demiurge's parasites can unring that bell. The interference has absolutely zero power over what you have already set in motion, unless you choose to believe it. Within hours or days, you will see the fabric of reality begin to warp. Synchronicities will multiply. Unexpected solutions will arrive. People will say exactly what you needed to hear. Resources will appear out of thin air. The maze of the matrix will suddenly rearrange its walls to let you through. That is not luck. That is the monad responding. Reality is reorganizing itself to match the truth you commanded into focus. And the more you practice this, the faster the responses come. You are literally training your biological nervous system to hold the high voltage frequency that summons miracles. Soon, you will stop thinking of miracles as rare, miraculous events. They will become your daily baseline. Because you have remembered who you are, And you have remembered how to command the code that overrides the illusion. The Church hunted the Gnostics and burned their texts for one simple reason. This knowledge makes the Church obsolete. If you know how to call source consciousness directly, you do not need a priest. You do not need a temple. You do not need to give them your money, your obedience, or your soul. Prayer keeps you dependent. Calling sets you free. The Archons need you to believe you are small, weak, and subject to the random cruelty of the universe. They feed on your prayers of desperation. But every time a chosen one remembers how to call, every time a pneumatic spark asserts its authority over the matrix, the illusion shatters a little bit more. Jesus taught the chosen ones how to call the monad. He taught them to stop asking and start invoking. Create the silence. Drop into the heart. Recognize your divine nature. Speak with the silent authority of Source, and command reality to align with truth. The Archons will try to blind you, but if you hold the frequency of recognition, authority, and command, the matrix must bow. Not because you are special, but because you remembered what you are. And what you are has always held the keys to the kingdom. If you successfully recognized your spark and called the monad with me tonight, there are 3 things you must do right now to lock in the frequency. First, go to the comments and type, "I call the monad." Declare your commitment to using this exact technique before you ever fall back into begging the universe for a favor. Second, subscribe to Divine Codes. The Matrix algorithms will try to hide this channel from you, but advanced monad invocation practices are coming, and you need to be connected to the grid. Third, like this video. Every interaction pushes this frequency further into the YouTube algorithm, helping other sleeping chosen ones discover that they don't need to pray through intermediaries. They can call directly. Do all 3 right now. And this week, before you need something in your life to shift, do not panic. Do not pray from fear. Find the silence. Drop into your chest. Recognize your spark. And speak the command. You are no longer asking for miracles. You are invoking them. And that is exactly what you came to this realm to do.